Welcome to the Centre for Independent Studies. I'm Oliver Hartwich and I'm here with my colleague Jessica Brown. Hello, Jessica.
Hello, Oliver.
You've just written a new report on disability support pensions and disability support pension reform in Australia. I think for some of our viewers, you probably have to define first, what does disability support really mean? Are we talking about severely disabled people, or is it just the occasional back pain?
It's a huge range of different disabilities. Disability support pension is an income support payment that's available to anyone of working age, so anyone over 16 who isn't able to work at least part-time due to their disability. And that can be a whole range of different factors. The biggest growing area at the moment is mental illness and psychological disorders. Traditionally, before that, the biggest area has been musculoskeletal conditions. So over time it changes, but this is really one of the difficulties and one of the reasons why there's such an imperative to reform disability support pension, because it's basically a one-size-fits-all type of policy, and we don't really get much of a sense of within that the severity of people's disabilities. So some people have profound disabilities and others have much more mild disabilities. Given the right support, they probably could work.
So it could be any kind of disability really, and it can be a permanent disability, and it could be something that could be just temporary for a few years?
To qualify for the pension, you need to be incapacitated for a period of at least 2 years and expected not to recover to the point where you're able to work within 2 years. And again, this is one of the issues that I think is driving the need for reform, especially when we're talking now about, for example, mental illness and some of the conditions that go with that, which are often quite episodic. People can have several years where they're very ill and then recover for a period of several years before relapsing. So this is also one of the reasons why this old system of everyone with a disability goes onto this pension and stays there for life is something we probably need to look at.
What are the chances actually of moving off disability support pension?
Very low. Around 1% of disability pensioners leave for the workforce each year.
So that means you're more likely to die on that pension rather than to return to the workforce?
Absolutely.
Okay, what should be done about it then? I mean, first of all, do we have to reassess disabilities?
That's the first step. And this is one area where there's a real bipartisan consensus that something needs to be done. The Howard government brought in some reforms and tried to make it tougher to get on. The Rudd and Gillard governments have brought in a number of reforms to try and make it tougher to get on. And we have seen some success. The rate of growth is slowing, but what we haven't done yet is reassessed people who are actually on the pension.
Okay, but how many people are we actually talking about then?
800,000, just over 800,000. It's about 5% of working age Australians, so 1 in 20 working age Australians.
And how does that compare to where we were, say, 20, 30 years ago?
Look, it's a lot worse. In the 1980s, it was about 2.5%. It's doubled to 5%. We've seen a stabilisation since about 2002, so even though the real number has increased.
But is there any evidence, I mean medical evidence, to show that Australians are now, say, twice as sick as they used to be? This
is one of the great paradoxes. We're healthier than ever before. We've got much better rehabilitation and support systems than ever before. Attitudes about people with disabilities in the workplace are changing. So this is one of the great paradoxes. And I think this is why a lot of people look at these figures and say, this defies common sense. So what is actually explaining the rise in pensioners on the DSP? Is it because government wants to play around with unemployment figures? In the past that was the case. In the 1990s, up until the 1990s, it was definitely the case that DSP was seen as a bit of an early retirement. That has become less and less so. And explicitly now you can't get on it just because of employment reasons, but because people stay on the pension for so long, we're still seeing the hangover of those policies that were in place 20 years ago. There's other demographic factors. The biggest increase has been amongst women because we've increased the pension age for women. So a lot of women that previously would have gone onto the age pension are now on disability pension. As the population ages and as the pension age increases in the future, we're going to see a huge pressure on people in their early 60s who want to go onto the DSP. So we really do need to be looking at how's this serving us for the future, bearing in mind that this costs about $13 billion a year already and projected within the next couple of years to rise to $15 billion. Now, one thing I don't quite get about the Australian debate about disability pension,
at the same time that we're having a debate about the DSP reform, we have a debate about really severe cases of disability, and they're not getting the support that they really need. How do these two phenomena go together?
Well, they're treated almost completely separately, and I suppose this is...
Should they be?
Well, this is one of the questions, and this is one of the problems with that I think we've got, is there's quite widespread agreement that a lot of these people with very, very serious disabilities aren't getting the level of support that they need, and they're scrambling around to try and find appropriate support. And at the same time, we are paying for this hugely expensive program to keep 800,000 people out of the workforce. So the question we need to ask is this really the best way we should be spending our money in the area of disability?
So in a way, it's a kind of a support system that doesn't really help those in need, and it probably keeps some people off work who could be working.
Look, we're always going to have a disability pension. There will always be people who can't work, and there will always be people who can work, but they will need a lot of support to do so, and they will probably still need to maintain a part pension. But I think increasingly we're starting to get to the idea that people with milder disabilities, giving them a life on welfare, we can probably do a bit better than that.
So what should be done, Billy? What are your recommendations?
The first thing we need to do is clearly differentiate between those disability pensioners who can work and those who can't, new pensioners and existing pensioners. Of those disability pensioners that can work, we need to require that they actually prepare for work. Finally, what we need to do is make sure that the right incentives are in place. We need to undermine the incentive for people to move from unemployment benefits to disability pensions. And one more point that's important on this as well, we need to look at the effect that other benefits have, such as the pensioner concession card, and look at ways that we can increase the incentive for people to move from disability to work, for example, by allowing them to keep their pensioner concession card.
Well, thank you very much. We look forward to hearing more from you in the future on this, in this area. And if you are interested in the report, you can find it on the CIS website at www.cis.org.au. Thank you very much, and thank you, Jess.
Thank you.